Ex-boyfriend kills woman on her wedding day. It was supposed to be the pinnacle of Gladys Ricard's life. Adorned in her bridal gown, she circulated among family and friends in her home, soaking in the pre-wedding excitement. The air buzzed with laughter, punctuated by the clicks of photographers capturing every gleeful expression. Unknown to the merry gathering, a figure from her past lingered outside, sitting in his car, gripped by a reluctance to let her go. As the preparations inside hit their stride, he sat stewing in growing agitation. Finally, compelled by a tumultuous mix of emotions, he exited his vehicle and made his way inside. Initially unnoticed by Gladys's family, who were engrossed in the flurry of last-minute wedding details, his presence was an ominous prelude to a tragic turn of events that would leave an indelible mark on everyone present. Born on October 15, 1960, in a quaint Dominican Republic town, Gladys was one of 4 children raised by Ana Rosario, a devoted single mother. Her siblings, Norma, Yolanda, and Juan, grew up without knowing their fathers, a secret their mother kept closely guarded. Despite this, Ana fostered a tight-knit family environment, instilling in them the importance of strong familial bonds and values. Gladys was known from a young age for her compassion and empathy, qualities that made her beloved by those around her. She shared an exceptionally close relationship with her older sister, Norma. Dreaming of a future filled with professional success, a fairy tale wedding, and a family of her own, Gladys was aware that realizing these dreams would demand unwavering commitment to her education. Her life took a challenging turn in 1978 when, at 18, Gladys fell in love and unexpectedly became pregnant. The relationship deteriorated, and she found herself alone when she gave birth the following year. The father, coming from an unknown background, absconded from his responsibilities, leaving her to face motherhood solo. Despite the setback, Gladys was resolute in her determination to provide for her son, putting her academic aspirations on hold. Her son blossomed into her greatest joy and strength, spurring her on through difficult times. As she secured a stable job, her life gradually stabilized, and her sister Norma moved to New York, taking her 2 daughters with her, expanding the family's horizons and dreams. Gladys Ricard had finally found her footing, securing a stable job to support her son back home. During this time, her sister Norma had already moved to New York with her 2 daughters, sparking Gladys's interest in That day on the subway seemed destined by fate for Agustin and Gladys. It was unusual for Agustin to travel by subway, but their chance meeting sparked a brief conversation and ended with him securing her phone number with a promise to meet again. Captivated by her warmth and beauty, Agustin began a courtship filled with grand gestures, presenting Gladys with luxurious gifts and dining experiences beyond her imagination. This encounter heralded a new and thrilling chapter in Gladys's life. As their relationship evolved, Agustin spared no effort in demonstrating his affection, lavishing her with attention and care. About a year into their dating, Agustin proposed that they move in together, and Gladys accepted, though she harbored deeper desires for marriage and a family life which Agustin seemed reluctant to fulfill. Meanwhile, friction arose between her son and Agustin's children, leading Gladys to urge patience, hoping the children simply needed time to adjust to the new family dynamic. However, Agustin's apparent indifference to her son only added to the tensions. After 2 years of cohabitation and persistent unresolved issues, a disheartened Gladys proposed they live separately. Agustin, though saddened, supported her decision and even assisted in securing her a new residence. In 1995, with Agustin's financial backing, Gladys purchased a charming 2-story house in New Jersey, conveniently near Agustin's home. Despite the physical separation, Agustin continued to introduce Gladys as his wife within social and community circles, maintaining the semblance of a perfect union. Behind the smiles and handshakes, however, their relationship was marred by Agustin's infidelities, which Gladys eventually uncovered. This betrayal deeply wounded her, causing her once vibrant spirit to wane. Many around them attributed her sadness to Agustin's hesitance towards marriage, yet chose to remain uninvolved. Whenever the topic of marriage arose, Agustin dismissed it, citing his fear of facing another divorce. Despite these dismissals, Gladys's desire for the commitment and security of marriage remained unabated, a longing she did not hesitate to express. As Gladys's relationship with Agustin deteriorated further, she started sharing her concerns with close friends. She revealed Agustin's unfaithfulness and his increasingly controlling and possessive behavior, which often sparked intense arguments. During one particularly heated dispute, on the day of the confrontation, Agustin arrived at Gladys's door with a composed exterior, requesting entry to discuss their situation. Sensing his underlying motives, Gladys steadfastly refused. Frustrated by her denial, Augustine's calm facade crumbled, revealing his true anger. In a fit of rage, he started hurling stones at her windows, instilling fear in Gladys and compelling her to call emergency services. Responding swiftly, a patrol car arrived within minutes, and the officers managed to restrain Augustine. Despite the severity of the incident, Gladys chose not to press charges, hoping the police intervention would deter him from further harassment. Her primary focus remained on her upcoming nuptials, wishing only for peace as the wedding day approached. Yet, Augustine's fixation persisted unabated. On the evening of September 24th, 1999, just 2 days before her wedding, Gladys ventured out to pick up a last-minute item for her bridesmaids, unaware that Augustine was trailing her. Once inside the store, Augustine casually draped his arm around her, feigning normalcy as he accompanied her through the aisles, an interaction that security cameras within the store documented. Although they parted ways afterward, the encounter left Gladys deeply unsettled, heightening her concerns about Augustine's escalating unpredictability. The morning of September 26, 1999, dawned with a flurry of activity at Gladys's home. Friends and family converged, and the atmosphere was jubilant, captured by photographers and videographers as they prepared for the ceremony. Outside, classic cars and limousines lined up, ready to ferry the wedding party to a church in Queens. Among the moments captured were touching scenes of Gladys with her 19-year-old son and her mother, who had made the journey from the Dominican Republic for her daughter's special day. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to those inside, Augustine drove past the house slowly, scanning the scene for a glimpse of Gladys. His persistence led him to circle the block several times until he was spotted. The tragic moment unfolded when Augustine, upon seeing Gladys radiant in her tiara and wedding dress, became fixated only on her, disregarding everyone else present. Driven by rage, he pulled out his gun and in a devastating instant fired at her. The appalling act was inadvertently captured by the wedding videographers, adding a grim record to what was meant to be a day of celebration. Although Gladys's brother Juan attempted to intervene, his efforts were tragically insufficient. Gladys was struck by 3 bullets and succumbed to her injuries on the scene. In the chaotic aftermath, Juan engaged in a physical struggle with Augustine, desperately trying to subdue him as others frantically called for emergency services. When the police and paramedics arrived, they found the 2 men still entangled in their desperate fight, with Augustine screaming his wish to end his own life. The officers managed to separate them and took them both into custody. Paramedics worked fervently to save Gladys, but their efforts were in vain. She was pronounced dead at the scene. As the news crews descended rapidly, broadcasting the tragedy across local media, Norma, Gladys's sister, heard of the calamity through a news report and rushed to the site, overwhelmed by shock. Meanwhile, at the church, James, Gladys's fiancé, was left waiting, initially assuming the delay was due to last-minute wedding adjustments. The reality struck James with crippling force when he was informed of the incident, transforming what was to be his wedding day into an unbearable nightmare. Augustine was arrested and taken into police custody, where detectives began to piece together the sequence of events leading to the murder. They found compelling evidence in the surveillance footage, the bullets in Augustine's pocket, and a list of license plate numbers from cars near Gladys's home that he had noted. The forensic examination of Gladys's body confirmed 3 gunshot wounds, one to her upper arm, another to her spine, and a fatal shot to her head. During his interrogation, Augustine initially claimed his visit was merely to talk, insisting he had no intent to harm her. However, faced with the overwhelming evidence, he ultimately confessed to the killing, voicing regret over the irreversible actions he had taken. Augustine was swiftly brought before a court for his initial hearing on September 27, 1999. Despite his claims of a momentary lapse, he was charged with murder, illegal firearm possession, and endangering minors at the scene. The judge set his bail at $5 million, and he was detained in county jail pending trial. Gladys's funeral, held on October 1, 1999, saw a large turnout, including the detectives handling her case. Mourners gathered around her casket, still dressed in her. The high-profile nature of the crime, coupled with Augustine's prominence, catapulted the case into the media spotlight across both the Dominican Republic and the United States. As the trial loomed, set for early October 2001, Augustine's defense team embarked on a controversial path during preliminary hearings. They held press conferences proposing an alternative narrative where Agustin was depicted as acting in self-defense against an alleged attack by Gladys's brother. They contended that Agustin had never intended to harm Gladys, portraying the shooting as a tragic accident. In their strategic maneuvering, the defense sought to smear Gladys's public image to tilt public opinion in Agustin's favor. They insinuated that despite her engagement to James, Gladys had been secretly involved with Agustin, suggesting that a fit of jealousy was the impetus for the impulsive act. The defense pushed for the charges to be reduced to involuntary manslaughter, arguing for a significantly milder sentence of 5 to 10 years under New Jersey law. This version of events began to gain some traction within the community, fueling gossip that painted Agustin as a heartbroken victim, unjustly provoked by Gladys. On the first anniversary of Gladys's death, the narrative took a compelling turn when a Dominican-born woman in Miami, moved by the tragedy, initiated a campaign against domestic violence. Donning her wedding dress, she ran a marathon, igniting what would later be known as the Bridal March, an annual event that drew other women to participate in solidarity, wearing their bridal gowns to highlight the cause. Gladys's family supported this movement wholeheartedly, appearing at press conferences to keep her memory alive and combat domestic violence. Amidst these developments, the defense team persisted with public engagements discussing the case, prompting the prosecution to request a gag order from the judge to prevent further public influence, which was subsequently granted. However, the community had already been saturated with rumors, complicating public perception. Recognizing the pivotal role of tangible evidence, the prosecution planned to leverage the wedding video footage during the trial, which graphically captured the moment of the shooting. This move was fully backed by Gladys's family, who saw it as vital to securing justice for her. On Valentine's Day 2001, a significant pretrial hearing was held where the judge alone viewed the video, while the courtroom attendees were exposed only to the audio track of that fateful day. A strategic decision aimed at underscoring the severity of the crime without the visual trauma. For Gladys's family, the trial was an agonizing ordeal. The defense challenged the use of the wedding video, arguing it gave the prosecution an unfair advantage by evoking emotional responses from the jury. Ultimately, the judge decided to permit only the segments explicitly showing the shooting, focusing the jury's attention on the facts of the case rather than its emotional impact. The trial officially commenced on October 2nd, 2001, with the defense positing that Agustin had been overwhelmed by the news of Gladys's impending wedding, claiming he acted in self-defense against perceived threats from her brother and son. During the proceedings, the defense presented security footage from the store Gladys visited just 2 days before her wedding, suggesting that she and Agustin had maintained a romantic relationship, a claim directly contradicted by other evidence. Initially, this narrative seemed to resonate with the jury. However, the turning point came when the prosecution aired the wedding video, clearly showing that Agustin was not provoked by anyone at the event and had deliberately targeted Gladys. Agustin took the stand on October 16, 2001, alleging a loss of consciousness after supposedly being attacked, a claim that did little to sway the jury. On October 23, 2001, after deliberation, the jury convicted him on all counts. This verdict was a monumental relief for Gladys's family, who saw it as a significant stride toward justice amidst their profound sorrow. Several months later, in February 2002, the judge sentenced 50-year-old Agustin to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 30 years. Now serving his sentence in New Jersey State Prison, Agustin has turned to religion, becoming a preacher within the prison community. Despite this transformation, his parole applications have been consistently denied. The tragedy of Gladys's death resonated deeply within the community and beyond, giving rise to the Bridal March. This annual event, marked by participants wearing black sunglasses and veils to symbolize solidarity with victims of violence and to conceal their bruises, has grown significantly, supported by local donations and continuing to offer a platform for victims to share their stories and seek support. Thank you for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're captivated